Well, hello and welcome back to the channel. We are back to talk about more Murderbot episode 3 risk assessment. And this one had a lot going on. A lot of good character
It
work, I
did.
feel like, and like a sneaky action sequence followed by a cliffhanger, which
There's a cliffhanger in every episode, though.
it 20 to 30 minutes. Yeah, I guess they kind of have to.
I guess. I kind of enjoy the cliffhanger at the end of every episode, though. Like, I like how so far the cliffhanger is ended with Murderbot making a narrative statement about it and then cut to credits.
Yeah, yeah. I think with this one, I mean, okay, on our last episode, you said, I want to see some new locations.
Oh,
We
I was
did
so
get some of that
excited.
too. They looked really good as well, like that flying shot when they're in the hopper, and then you
Yes.
get that kind of like low, they're not in like orbit, but they're like, they're up there, they're cruising. You got some nice
Right.
visuals seeing things from above, which was really cool. And then we've got some like glowing crab things happening.
Be careful of the crabs.
Yeah.
Those crabs don't look right to me.
No, no.
I really enjoyed that and the exoplanet landscape, the
Yeah.
you remember how Gurathin was like eye contact, like eye stalks coming?
Yes.
Those are what those were. Those were the eye stalks that he referenced. But that was yeah, I really liked even the short bit that we saw of them walking around in the
Mhm.
other area of the planet.
Yeah, and it was interesting because where the preservation team is located, it's very desolate and kind
That's what
of
I was
sandy,
thinking.
dusty, and then they roll up to this other location and it's this like lush, like forested area, which okay, so they must have traveled a considerable distance if they're going from desert to more of like
Yeah,
jungle
the
looking.
biome change.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, that was interesting. Definitely. And there are some things that really haven't been answered yet that I'm kind of wondering about. I mean, they're not critical to watching the show, but what was the other team on Planet for? Were they doing the same thing?
probably just another research team.
Okay,
Yeah.
resource and research. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're, like I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, it could have been more of like a commercial outfit, so like something to make money where the preservation team are like, "Yay, science, we want to make discoveries."
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like there's some clues in this episode because when Murderbot is kind of like in the feed and it's showing all of these things like in I guess like the perspective of it running down like numbers and getting I don't know, like messages and stuff like that. It did say that this other team, this Deltfall team, as he's looking at the habitat, he's running down just how big the habitat is, how many members it has inside, how many SecUnits they have. And it said something about this Deltfall team being a company repeat customer. So they get this kind of like discounted price for I don't remember if it was for like vehicles or something, but it does kind
Buy
of
one, get one.
yeah, yeah. So it does kind of make it seem like this other team has been in and out doing things for a while and is maybe more closely related to not related, but a better customer coming
Right.
back and a wealthier customer considering
Clearly.
they've got this
The
nice
ultra nice
yeah.
modular units and
Mhm.
3 sec units, but we never know. The sec units could have been like a buy two get one deal.
Right? Right? Do you want to go through some of our characters and
Yes.
what all happened? Is there someone you wanna start with? Should we
Let's
start
start with Gurathin
okay, he
because
he
the
he only
pillow
gets
smeller.
He only gets like a
What
little segment this
I think
episode.
that was one of my favorite scenes of the episode where he was like, "What is he doing? Is he spying? Is he gonna plant an explosive?" And nope. Much more boring, much more creepy, pillow smelling.
I love that they're I love for one, I love the character of Gurathin because he's just so I don't know, like cold logic, right? Where everyone else
Yeah.
on the team, like all of these like very feely, emotional people, and Gurathin is just like just this guy.
I'm just here to do the analysis.
Yeah, yeah, but then I feel like they keep throwing us little moments to get us to really mistrust the guy,
Yeah.
and then they'll like
He
pull it
really
back
hasn't
around again.
Yeah, because he's done some weird stuff, but he
Mhm.
hasn't done anything, like, necessarily suspect. I've kinda backed away from my theory that he's, like, working for the company after this episode. I'm just like, "Okay, maybe that's wrong." But, I mean, clearly something's going on.
There's something up with his
There's
scent memories.
something. Well, not just
Yeah,
that, but there's something going on, like
I'm just wondering if and this is not based on anything from the books because for one, I read the book that this season is like writing that is adapting years ago. So it's not fresh in my memory. But I'm wondering if they're going to make Garathan like have this very close relationship with Mensah in a way where it starts to kind of explain why he's on this team and maybe like why he's sniffing her pillows and mattresses. Like
I
there
mean,
there
could you imagine getting caught doing that? I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't wanna be caught doing that. Like, I would rather be caught stealing than smelling someone's pillow. Like,
Oh my god. Yeah, there are definitely I could think of like many other things
many things
that
I'd
would be
rather be
better.
caught doing.
Yeah. So, I don't know, maybe he's there because I don't know, maybe there's like, I maybe there's some type of relationship between them, and I'm not saying like romantic, let's get that
Yeah.
out of the way, but maybe, yeah, like maybe there's something going on with these 2. He's scared, maybe this is like a stress related thing.
Maybe. I mean,
I don't know. But I did really, really like Grothin's conversation with Bardawaj, and I guess we can kind of like group these 2 together
yeah.
because
Yeah, because
they
neither one of
only
them had much screen time.
they only really appear in this scene together.
It seems like he was, trying to be really helpful, but doesn't necessarily have, like, the emotional intelligence
Girl, that
to
was I wrote that in my
traverse
notes.
to traverse this landscape. Like, grief may not be something that he can help people with.
No, he was approaching it in a very analytical way where she's kind of sobbing there at the screen. He's like, "Oh, hey." And she's like, "Yeah, I think, almost dying and getting eaten by this creature really shook me up, feeling a lot of things." And he's like, "Oh, well, I have some modules for, to help blah, blah, blah."
Nondescript modules
Yeah.
at
And,
that.
and she's like, actually, I think I'm okay. You really, I mean, to me, my assessment was that she was really needing some like emotional comfort, someone to sit with her, there her and be like, it'll be okay, and come to it from a more like feeler
Yeah.
aspect. And he comes in with like cold logic, like, oh, like, let me help you by solving this problem. And she's
Yeah, and
like,
that's
that's
like a
not what I
really
want.
that's like a thought and logic driven, like, problem solving. That's what you do. You don't, like, it's not so much about, like, feeling and support with the cold logic. It's about problem solving and how do we keep, you know, what do we do next to keep going?
Right, right. And I think too, at first glance, what he was offering her could feel very cold if you are someone who is very, like, emotionally driven. Where
Yeah.
it's like, why didn't this guy just help her? Why didn't he just say, go through the motions, be like, "It'll be okay." But I think in Garathan's own way, he was truly trying to be helpful, and there almost seemed like there was a moment where after that interaction, you could tell, like, he looked a little bit sad when she's like, "Oh, I'm good. I think I'm okay. Never mind." There was kind of this moment where his face was just kind of like
It did seem like he was a little bit sad that it wasn't helpful, which
right.
does kind of make you think that it came from a genuine place. He's not trying to come across like this. He just doesn't really know what to do, so he's doing the only thing he does know how to do.
Right, and I thought that was a really nice tie-over into Murderbot because as after this takes place, Murderbot is talking about Garatha and being like, he's a weird half human, half lizard, whatever. And he's just talking about how Garathan's a creep after this incident. But like the irony is that Murderbot can't deal with emotions either. Even
Oh,
he's even
it's
worse than Garathan.
the
So
unintentional irony there
yes.
is it's wild.
Mhm.
And like you see that kind of thing like where you talk about how he can't do that, like Murderbot can't do that either. And as simple as like in the next scenes where they're all like in the hangar, like in the cockpit area, and they're trying to talk, and he's just like, when they're
Nope.
like, do you care? And he's like, yes, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I don't know. I think this little scene between Bardawaj and Garathan was like a very, very quick, very, very tight little character work piece where you're really getting to see who these people are without spending a ton of time on it. And like we said, these episodes are lightning quick. And
Yeah.
so we've literally only got a couple hours worth of content with this entire show. So you have to really jump into it fast and really do something to show who these people are at an accelerated rate.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it almost feels like if you took a movie and broke it down by scene and then released it, that this is what that's kind of like.
Yeah.
Um, I really have enjoyed like seeing how Murderbot like takes on having to work with people who definitely see it as a victim of slavery, who
Mhm.
want it to be part of the collective team.
Mhm.
And they want different things than what it's ever been asked to do in the past. Like normally it's just security, that's it.
Yeah.
It just like with the miners, keep them from fighting, keep them from getting killed. But here it's not just keep them from getting killed. They're like, we want to know you, we want you to be part of our society,
Yeah.
we want you to be like us. And it's like, but I don't want that. Like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to hang out. Like,
No.
I just want to watch my space soaps and I guess keep an eye for any warnings.
Right. I think it's interesting that the they go back and forth as time goes forward. There's more things that Murderbot is doing where it kind of raises a red flag because when there's that group team moment, they're like, "Hey, you get in here." And he's like, just like no reaction
None,
at
nothing
all.
whatsoever.
Nothing. So
And it's like absolute worst plan after they were just questioning your loyalty.
right. He's so there's so then that moment, it's technically disobeying a direct order. And that should be
A
raising
flag.
some red flags for people, but they're almost so fixated on making it a part of the family, a part of the team, they're almost treating Murderbot like a beloved pet of the group, you
Yeah.
know?
You know,
Like
and they're missing those red like, without Gurathin on this mission, they're missing the flags because he would have been like, "That was a direct order, you better bring it in."
yeah.
And he would be noticing things that, like, are more red flags, like reading their logs, and nobody else checks in on what Murderbot gives as the reasons when he gets caught doing something. Every time he's just like, "Ah, random protocol." And Garathan's the only one that's like, turns out that's not a standard protocol for you guys. Like,
Yeah. Even when it is revealed that Murderbot has been looking in on the client logs because that's what the company uses them. I mean, I guess it's written into their programming that they're supposed to do this. And so, even with that reveal, the immediate reaction isn't red flag, oh my God, Murderbot's going to kill us. It's dangerous. It's scary. It's like, whoa, buddy, that's an invasion of our privacy. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, it's coming from this emotional aspect of kind of like this feely, like, hey, like that wasn't cool. That's, like you're spying. That's a social
yeah.
faux pas and not, oh my God, that's so dangerous. Which I don't know. It's fun. I love that dynamic of everybody just I don't
Ooh, you
know.
you know what dynamic is getting kind of tense?
Tell me.
The thruple.
The thruple?
Like, so before they get off on the planet, they're talking about weapons like
Yeah.
uh SecUnit is like, "Do you guys have weapons training?" And they're like, "Yeah, we all took a course." And then we find out that
Not
Rotti did
Rotti.
not take the course. But within that whole little discussion comes like a video game enters the chat kind of thing. And then we see, Dr. Arata's like, "What do you mean you play that game?" And Pinley's like, "What, I don't." And then, we keep having these moments that go back and forth. And you got to wonder, like, why on earth is Pinley keeping the fact that they play video games a secret from Arata? And
Mhm.
then why is Arata upset about said video game? And like what a topic to cause problems in your relationship.
I love that this is like the pinnacle of kind of like heads butting here because it's not that deep. Like it's
It's
not
not.
it's like very surface level tension in a way where like it's giving the feeling of people that have spent a lot of time together just kind of like grinding up against one another and kind of rubbing each other the wrong way. Where it's like it's not that deep, but it's also them acting a little bit dramatic for no reason. And I think that is one of the things that makes them kind of like this lovable weird bunch in a way
I think
because
that they're definitely like a lovable bunch.
yeah.
I really enjoy I enjoy the dynamics between them
Mhm.
a lot, like between the whole like Preservation Alliance group that we see, because everybody's like, I love how everyone like really cares about each other, and then
Yeah.
like you were saying, when something happens, they're just like, man, that wasn't cool.
Right. Dude, not cool. I think though, I actually you bringing up Arata and Penley and Rotti, I'm very curious how this relationship will go moving forward, if we're gonna get more tension or if things are gonna get smoothed over, or if we
Yeah.
see some type of instance where the 3 of them have to work together to solve a problem, like, in a very tense time, where it's like, "Oh, okay," like, when they're thrown into the thick of it, then they're, like, moving as a very solid, unit and getting things done and having each other's back, because right now, like, it just feels kind of, like, tense for the sake of tension, but
Yeah, but the tension's like you were saying, it's not like a serious deep issue, but I am kind of curious as to how this like whole thruple thing plays out.
Sorry.
because it seems to be kind of like a circle.
Yeah.
Like Rotti wants Pinley, Pinley wants Arata, Arata wants Rotti.
Yeah.
And yeah, it'll be interesting because like Rotti and Pinley do seem like they really kind of hit it off, like in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they've got that kind of odd couple thing going on with Pinley being like the attorney of the group and him just having that like a goofy golden retriever energy where he's just so happy for the sake of being happy. Like he's just so cheerful.
He's high energy for sure.
Yeah. I think probably Rotti out of the group, I think Rotti has probably had my favorite moments this episode if you take Murderbot out of the equation.
I actually really did enjoy when Rotti was giving himself like a admonishment. Why did you miss weapons training? It's because you were drunk and hungover and this and that. Hey bud, we can all hear you. It's like that kind of stuff that makes this show really enjoyable because it's
Yeah.
like actiony and there's like, you know, a whole like I guess like quest to go on in a way, but there's also like all of these very human moments, like that kind of
Mhm.
stuff.
Yeah. I think it just makes them more like quirky and lovable.
Yeah,
And
it's
typically I'm not someone watching shows looking for that. Like I don't usually go into a lot of, like humorous or like comedic shows being like, "Oh, I love it." I don't know what it is. It's probably just not really my thing, but I think in this show it really works. Like
it's
it's
hilarious.
yeah, like it's giving this weird split between like wholesome, lovable to this like cranky murder bot who's cussing all the time and calling people assholes. Like it just works, I think. Like it and it wouldn't work if everybody was kind of just like cold, logical
Right.
scientists.
Yeah, I do appreciate that we're not like working with a team of killers here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we don't need like a special forces or spec ops team on this. Like I think what brings in a lot of the like, you know, those moments of humanity and the comedic aspect of this is how we have just like all of these science types who really want to save, you know, they want to protect, they want to help people and,
Yeah.
you know, this and that. And then they're with this like ultra killing machine and they're, you know, like I said, they're trying to like coax it into becoming more human.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it
But
works.
I will say that I agree with them that like the sec units are tantamount to slavery though.
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, the more you think about it, it's pretty
It's
it's
a
pretty
horror.
gross. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
really
a
is.
horror.
Like, it's so incredibly dystopian that I think here's another thing, if you approach this topic, which is so dystopian, without, like, a little bit of lightheartedness, I think it's gonna fall into a lot of tropes that you see in sci-fi where, like I'm
Yeah.
trying to think, something like Altered Carbon, like we're seeing how the system is just so like gritty and despicable and messed up, but there's no way to cut the tension in a
Yeah.
show like that.
Actually, Altered Carbon would be like a perfect parallel for this.
Yeah.
Um yeah, like because they kind of deal with some of the same topics like what happens when there's no check on wealth, like and
Mhm.
power, and then you start seeing like intergalactic, you know, power units show up. This is like it reminds me if like Altered Carbon was funny.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
Takeshi Kovacs had jokes.
Yes. Yes. I think that sums it up. If you're
I'm a huge Altered Carbon fan too.
I
Like,
know, I know.
love it.
I know. I think yeah, I think with with all of the characters mentioned, I think Rotti is the one that is doing the most heavy lifting in terms of tone for the
Yeah.
show, besides Murderbot. Because I loved when he chimes in. Murderbot's like, all right, you guys stay behind. I'm going in. And it took that moment for Murderbot to take charge and take the lead in a moment of protection where Rotti feels the need to tell Murderbot to be careful. And so
Mensah was like, "Can you set up a private channel, please?"
yes,
It's that kind of, it's
yes.
like that kind of stuff. It's so hilarious. Like,
Mhm.
just everybody's like, because like these people aren't used to like these kind of operations, their research, that kind of stuff. So when they're on these like more militant based operations, just be careful in there.
Yeah. Maybe we should move into Mensah because we haven't really talked about
Yeah,
her much.
she's one of my favorite characters.
Oh, tell me why.
I just really like how she approaches things. Out of everybody, she seems to be the most balanced. Like we have Gurathin that's all the way over on the side of like logic, and then we have some of the other characters who are like all the way over on the other end, and she's kind of like resting or like maybe orbiting the middle a little bit,
Mhm.
where she takes SecUnit's like advice while also not just relying on everybody else for advice. But
Mhm.
she, and I really appreciate how, how responsible she feels for everything. I
Yeah.
think that it gives her character some extra depth, which that's one thing I will say. It's surprising how well these characters are written for the content.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Mensah, you really see the maturity there compared to the other characters, which fits because she's the lead, she's in charge, and she definitely has that like mom energy of the
Yeah.
group where, like you said, when she's cutting the feed and she's like, we're switching to a private comm because like she knows she's recognizing, okay, like this is important. We need to be precautious. And you've got Roddy in the background talking to himself. And so she's making these tough calls. Like, should they actually go to check out um what is it, Deltfall team, this other
Yeah.
group? And she's saying at one point, I think she mentioned, like, somebody's like, "Should we do this? Should we not do it?" And it's like, "No, like, we have to do this. What if it was us in this situation? We're better than that. We don't we're not these, like, dirty
Yeah.
scoundrels on this part of the galaxy who are just about corporate greed and self-interest and
It's all
etcetera."
over profits.
Right. Right, and so, you know, they're a very moral bunch, you know?
They are.
Mhm.
And it's kind of nice to see that, especially like I've enjoyed seeing much more like theatrical characters in sci-fi versus like, like a really easy sci-fi show to compare it to would be like The Expanse.
Mhm.
There's definitely comedic relief here and there in The Expanse, but the characters are completely different. Everybody's like very serious and oppressed.
Right.
And in this, we get to see a little bit more of like, what about the people who live in a different area than like all of the corporate overlords?
Yeah.
And they talk, and she talks about their alliance having like fiscal freedom and how important this well, I guess like resource job that they're on right now really is going to be for that financial freedom. Because
Yeah.
she was saying like some factions within their alliance are like, you know what, we should just join the corporation.
Yeah. Yeah. whatever Planetary Alliance. Yeah, we should just move from ours into theirs and be absorbed
and
and
make it
just join
easy.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I mean, she even brings that up later when she says the company would want us to fail. They wouldn't want to, they would love to see, what is it? Like
They're preying on their downfall.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So on one hand, it does have this like moral, like, huzzah, we must do it for the sake of being good people, but it's also like you see a little bit of fight in her as well because she's saying, like, we'll show them we're not like weak. We'll show them that we are self-reliant and
Right.
self-sufficient, which I do really appreciate from Mensa because again, I think a lot of the times just, not even in sci-fi, but media as a whole, whether it be like books or television, films, whatever, sometimes when they don't know what to do with the character, they will just rely on like the trope of being like the mom of the group,
Right.
where it's like, oh, she's an older woman,
With a
she's not like,
gaggle of kids.
yeah, like she's not this like hot young space lady, you know
Space
what
caddy.
yeah, like you have to make a character more interesting than just like, oh, she's the grown up, the mom of the group. And I think they're doing that pretty well with Mensa. But I mean, they also have the books to go on. But I will say, like, the books, you get you get a lot of their like internal thoughts. So I think it's a lot easier to do in the books where you can't just
Yeah.
have the woman talking to herself the whole time.
Yeah, and that's like one of the easier parts about Murderbot is because there is narrative like inner monologue.
hmm
So, regardless of whether he does a lot of speaking or not, you're still getting like that inner monologue side from Murderbot. So, you know where he's at like all the time, basically. I
Yeah.
do think that like Murderbot and this band of do-gooders is going to be an incredible story over time.
Yeah.
And he's
W-
kind of the perfect sec unit for them. The fact that he has a like a jailbroken governor is I imagine is going to work in their benefit.
Yeah. I mean, we see it. So yeah, let's talk about him because I think we've covered everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So Murderbot has a lot going for it in this episode. It is off the jump getting like pulled into this like group hug thing. Murderbot doesn't care, doesn't want to be a part of it, whatever. As time goes on, you see Murderbot step up and start taking this lead role
Right.
where get behind me, stay in the hopper. Actually, on top of that, if you don't hear back from me in 10 minutes, you guys just leave because Murderbot is assessing all of the damage and seeing all of this death, dead people everywhere. All these fancy sec units are down, totally messed up. And it's almost as though the more Murderbot does what it's supposed to do in terms of like what Murderbot would have been programmed for, which is security, the more it's doing this, the more you see the human attachment latch on because
Yeah.
they're anthropomorphizing Murderbot even more. Like as it starts leading, they're like, "Oh, be careful. Like we care about you. Be safe in there, buddy."
I mean, I can't blame them cuz you don't really want a killing machine not on your side.
Right, right.
So like, ooh, because now we're towards the end near the cliffhanger, so we can talk about
Yeah.
this. So we get in that hangar or their pods, everything's a mess. And then he's like, well, this looks like the season one finale of one of the shows. But then he's like, but the show's low quality. So I
Yes.
mean,
Right.
so
Too easy, too clean, too
you know,
predictable.
right. You know how in like the opening credits, there's all those like like navy blue SecUnits following, like little toy SecUnits
Yeah,
running
yeah.
after him. I assume that has to be something that we're going to be seeing here, is like those are
Mm.
representative of these, what would you call this, like cyber attacked SecUnits? They're like hacked and hijacked. I'm not sure like what word you would use for this,
Yeah,
but
all good
yeah,
choices.
yeah, they've been hijacked. They're
Mhm,
serving the will of somebody else. And, Murderbot and his team, because
mhm.
they're a team now, whether he
Oh,
likes that
yeah.
or not.
For sure.
Murderbot and his team are kind of like definitely seeing something they're not supposed to be seeing. Like this, you could tell that this was not supposed to make it off. None of that was supposed to make it off planet. So the last thing they want is somebody finding out.
I think Murderbot has definitely sniffed out a cover-up.
For sure.
It knows something is not right, and like you said, it he goes in and he of course, like, of course, I love it so much how he's comparing it to one of his stories, one of his shows, and he's like, I've seen this before. I know what this is. Too clean, not it's not right."
Plot lines that don't make sense, that kind of thing.
Yes, and I love the pattern recognition of it all. I love how sure of himself he is in his own predictions. I love how he's also cutting the comms to make it like, "Oh, can't hear you." You know what I mean? Like, "Get you guys should leave if you don't hear back from me in 10 minutes." There's so much happening that I think it's really easy to miss that there's still this question of, is Murderbot trying to get them out of there because it wants control of the situation, or does it care? And, like
So, you know how like when Murderbot's in the pod, he talks about how I should have went back, but my curiosity got the better of
yeah,
me. We're
yeah,
also seeing these like more human cognitive traits come forward,
yeah,
like curiosity and, like investment in television programs and stuff like that. So, if it was just his curiosity that brought him here, then imagine where his curiosity is going to take him on this mystery.
ah, yeah, yeah.
Like, that'll be
It
one of the
could
big
get
driving forces for this.
right, right, and it could get really messy if Murderbot gets too invested in the
Yeah.
mystery, but I still think, I don't know, this ending sequence where again, like, this is another one of these sci-fi tropes where you get the, like, predictability of something like, "Oh, I know all of the moves because I was trained the same way." Like, like, you see it in a lot of these what's the right type of genre? I guess action where it's, like, spy versus spy, like, 2 CIA agents going up against one
Like
another, and they've
like
learned
sci-fi action.
well, yeah, I'm just talking about in general where say you've got, like, 2 Marines and,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like they've learned the same hand-to-hand combat, so they're both predicting each other's moves at the same time, like, very Jason Bourne style, like,
Yeah.
fist fight sequence going on. I love seeing that in a sci-fi, like, outlook because I don't know, like, it's cool just watching 2 2 bots go at it, but I did really appreciate the visuals because it did look different than what they could have done with it, and they kinda do that, like I don't know, it's almost like a video game aspect where it's showing it, like, frame by frame, and then, like,
Yeah.
it charges, and then they both meet up, and then they're fighting, and then after the fight another thing, Murderbot doesn't kill it, I noticed. Murderbot doesn't he does
Yeah.
Murderbot doesn't it's not like shooting it in the head and blowing its head off, it blows it back, and then it lands on some
Like
electronics or
what
something and shorts out.
I assume that's a power reactor of some
Yeah.
sort. And so Yeah,
It didn't
there's some
murder.
curious things.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it didn't
Why did it
murder
name
to
itself Murderbot?
because because at least this was my interpretation. In the was it the first 2 episodes, we get those flashbacks of something happening to Murderbot where it was involved in
Yeah.
some skirmish. I think
Yeah, because we
that's
still have
sitting
to uncover that too.
yeah, I think that's sitting in the back of its head, and it knows deep down that it did something terrible. And so, as those pieces are kind of, like, in the I don't know, in the background of its mind, I think it's calling itself Murderbot as kind of like atonement in a way, like,
Okay. That would make sense for
w
sure.
where it's kind of like, it's kind of like Goofy in the beginning, and he's like, "I want something cool, not rogue bot, not something lame. What about Murderbot?" So, like, I think it's kind of like a play on the almost, like, childlike nature of it, but also, like, this very, very dark aspect in the background.
Yeah, because I mean, we actually, for as like little material as there's really been in 3 episodes, we have gotten a lot at the same time. Like, there's a lot of pieces and trails to follow here. So
Yeah.
we have, like, what happened in that 7-second clip in his memory? What's happening on planet right now?
Mhm.
I mean, like, he's like really kind of positioned in the central like sphere of everything at this point.
Yeah. It's
Him and
working
his
out to be
ragtag team.
it's working out to be quite the conspiracy. And I think look, this episode ends off with Murderbot being like, "Who gave the orders to this sec unit? I wonder who it could be." And then it's like shadowy dark sec unit in the
Yeah, dark
background,
sec
like
unit.
charging forward. And
Where has that sec unit been? Where has like Darth Sec been this whole time?
Darth
Because
sec.
like it comes out of kind of nowhere. So has it just been
Yeah.
like hanging out on planet waiting for a ride back to, like, I don't know, like the creepy killer factory? Or
If I had to guess, I would say that it had been doing rounds. So, like,
ah,
they had landed outside of the perimeter that I think the sec units would normally patrol. And I think
right.
that was, by design, Murderbot's like, "Hey, we should,
I
like."
wonder why Darth Sec is hanging out after everybody's been killed. Is it like waiting for more researchers to come, or maybe like another phase of the plan on planet?
I
But that
would
was like the only thing
say
that I was like, why is it still there if it's completed its
yeah.
mission to like take out Deltfall?
I would assume that it's kind of running on autopilot when it's not, like, tuned in to stimuli. You know how Murderbot, whenever it's uncomfortable, it'll be like, "I need to go check the perimeter." Like, I kind of feel like this other sec unit would have probably just been doing the same thing, and,
Okay.
like a security guard, like, okay, you
Right.
have to do the rounds, so you check this corner, then that corner, and then make your way over here, and he just kind of stumbled in, or the racket from the fight probably alerted it to that other sec unit goes flying into whatever power source that was.
Yeah.
Maybe that tipped it off. I don't know.
That definitely could have tipped it off, especially if it had like some sort of sensor inside the pod, like like a motion
Mhm.
sensor kind of thing. But yeah, I'm really interested to see like how many more of Darth Sex there are on planet.
I want to see more of the auxiliary, not auxiliary, the preservation team and Murderbot, like, what they have in their arsenal, because I know, like, we saw one of the drones in the first episode. I do remember in the books that the drones were kind of a big thing, and
Okay.
so that is one of the aspects where, like, once Murderbot starts like throwing out more tech type stuff and crunching numbers and running data and kind of like connecting to other machinery that is there like on world, things start getting very cool in the way that Murderbot can multitask and kind of like do all of these things. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. And then also just, I don't know. I kind of know where it goes, but like I don't want to
I mean,
spoil
you
you, but
have
like
read it. Yeah, don't
yeah.
spoil.
But I think I don't know, there should be some pretty fun stuff ahead,
I'm
especially
excited.
especially with this cliffhanger. Was there anything you wanted to talk
Mm,
about before we wrap it up?
no, I think we really covered everything.
I didn't expect us to go for this long. I thought,
Neither did I.
we'll be like 30 minutes. It'll be
Yeah, I was
quick.
like, it'll be like 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah. So if you're watching or listening wherever you might be, go ahead, like and subscribe to this video. That, helps other people find it if you enjoyed it. And Laura and I will be covering all the episodes, and this will be a weekly thing. So thanks for watching, and we will see you back with the next episode.